Oh, okay. You know, you're not some of your
That's
kids
how I,
do that.
that's how I get in trouble.
Repeat out loud, it could be very dangerous. Really do.
Oh, boy.
I'm a scarf person. I have drawers of scarves, and I always wear the same old scarf.
Overcoats, they're not very warm because they're like a silk coat, so your whole chest is open. So Pam bought me for Christmas this one, a white silk scarf with tassel jacket. And the coat I have is black cashmere with the white things on it. Really, really awesome.
Yes, she's still alive. You look very, debonair tonight this evening. Is there even this? I do watch it.
And you don't look at them.
I must not look at you.
This used to be everyday attire. And since I retired, I got all these suits and that.
I do it.
I'm gonna start wearing them at least once a month.
I have an
Plus, I
entire,
lost weight and I can fit it.
I have an entire closet of jackets that I used to wear. 'Cause I used to always wear jackets. I had dogs here. So I always wore a jacket because I felt as a professional and you should wear a jacket. I have a whole closet.
I got 1, 2, 3 walk-in closets in my house. 4 closets total. And I got all cedar trees. I got one more here. But it was so, and the smell.
The smell is great. I know, the smell is great. It does, why is this?
I don't know.
Isn't that
I'm
good?
not sure if it goes away.
No, it comes away.
It does.
I have the smell, so I haven't smelled it anyway. But I get everything. The smell is here? Nope. It goes.
Did you find that picture?
It takes longer because it's closed.
Yeah.
Sure. It's not in here.
I can do it right now.
I want a whole closet. That much of them, I have clothes in there. It must be.
Linda.
Something.
I don't have one.
I see you on it.
I just have photos.
Yeah, and look, what else? I think he took some pictures, maybe some other stuff.
So he's not in good shape. And what did the
All right,
doctor
let's
say?
see where we're at.
There's something under his knees, and that's all he found. Where it's at.
Right, I remember
Right
that.
at the elbow. Here we are.
So now.
There's 2 of them.
It just keeps going on. So.
Let me go here.
Now,
I'll
this
send
is
you
with
both.
the diabetes.
Press whichever one you
Oh,
want.
that's on top.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I've got this
Oh.
and this. I think I only sent you one.
And he was.
Did I ever show you? Did I ever show you?
Yes, you did.
I don't, you know, when you first came there,
Damn.
they overlooked you with all this information. I left the hospital, and I was actually afraid when I left because
Daughter was in. This is what your mother does.
I didn't know idea what you were doing. But you figure it out. I got
Good.
Yeah, the one, I think
guys
this
must.
one is this way is what it is, and the other one is this, so depending on how you want.
What?
They voted with us. Anyhow,
Good.
they went to your keys.
Somebody saw the light.
Well, no, he's getting to know what the township is all about.
Oh, no, it's simple.
Second one.
It's so heavy, you know.
And he couldn't see.
I need
how
something
to
heavy.
show
I
his
need a
nose.
heavier coat.
I need to get
Get that in.
2 more guys though to go along with it, you think?
I know, they're outrageously expensive.
Because I got it in July, that's why it was the only one on the rack.
I would buy it if it was, you know, I wouldn't think twice about it. I wouldn't think twice about it.
That's
If
what's
it's
great.
any-
Free country. I don't know.
Yeah, I need
I moved that far.
And that's exactly what I found. I also. Joe Turio.
So we'll see how soon they wanna put it on there. And I wonder what those judges that are at our order, they can go on the ballot, I wonder what they have to think about this,
Right.
But I'm kind of.
you know, with their,
My ex,
um,
or one of my
whatever.
exes, you like everybody until you find out that they screwed you. It's alternative, but I don't like it anyway.
Do you trust them until they mess up?
Yep.
No, but they're good. That's why they make lots of them. And he's not hurt us, he would like us. Here, we have started on again next year. On the last one. So it's better right there. You
Yeah,
can see it.
absolutely, what is it gonna show?
Well, I don't know. So next year it'll be 80% because those 30% people are gonna find out what it's really like.
There's anything here. It says what it might be.
Well, that's before everything starts.
Okay, you're okay.
And like it's they don't even come out unless it's over 2 inches. I
Were you here last meeting?
think so.
You're talking about. She's like this big.
Oh, yeah.
It takes a half hour.
She buys for us, that we don't have.
Well, you know that the people that are gonna get, they're not gonna get elected again, that's for sure. But the new guys that come in, they're not gonna get paid. Yes. To do this, yeah. They want somebody to run it, they're not gonna run it, it's a full-time job. And if they walk in, they can have time, so they get $10 a month. About us. Screw up the road district, so people will say, well, they don't do anything anyway, so let's get rid of the township. They, you know, they're kind of something, say something, you know?
He is going to read this. Yeah, where did he go? I
I
started
agree,
coming in.
there's too many units. You know, too many.
Or Burgess, Burgess.
Yes.
One school guy, they know that.
Yeah.
Good. If my tax bill is higher than the average, $185 comes from the township, $9,000 goes to the school. It doesn't take an effort to say what the problem is.
Right, it's not, and the township does a lot for a lot of people.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Yeah.
We're ready for it.
Is it gonna be a quick meeting?
Yes, I will, try to.
Stop them and have them,
That's why
Right in next year.
I had this over here.
Yeah,
Oh, I see.
I have a feeling we're gonna need it.
you better.
You get rid of things right away. You get everything.
That's a lot of it.
Yeah, I picked up the one in the corner, so I put it in the corner. That's my car today. It's still there, but off the corner. And I have the one. Okay, so whatever.
is it gonna work tonight? I just wanna know, is it gonna work?
I'm not promising anything anymore.
Give do a new record.
I thought we've had it out other times, but,
Yeah, I know. I forgot my good idea.
speakers.
Oh, great, good, 'cause I needed something to fill the
Can I
page.
give one of these to
Thank
you
you
too?
for this, coats, winter coats.
Yeah, no, tell me.
Huh?
I've got all about these things going.
Are you operating tonight?
Nobody's going out.
Are you operating tonight?
She said, "Come and let me know."
Well, you know what the weather's after this, you know,
Yeah, it's nice.
if it, you know.
Shut the front ones off.
Do you want the agenda?
The what?
The rough making my copies.
Oh, the building, yeah. Yeah.
That's good enough.
Don't waste it. This is the pre.
One of my ancestors was the first one to use a motorized purse in Chicago.
Everybody can take their seats. It's time to start. Okay, I'm going to open the meeting first. We're going to do a Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, the meeting is open at 7 o'clock. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With that, we're going to start our Blue Star banner presentation.
Yep. I can hear you.
You can hear me? Yeah. Am I going to get yelled at this time? Well, welcome, and thank you very much for coming. I'd like to introduce the ladies of the Beta Sigma Phi, and it's as far as I get with it. I cannot pronounce the rest of it, but they're the ones that get this going and with help with the township. And I'd also like to introduce our supervisor, Mr. Adams. He will start things with the resolution and the first presentation.
I'm going to
read the resolution that all of you will be getting. First, I'll read the first one, Resolution 18-1108A. Whereas the freedom and security the citizens of the United States enjoy today are a result of the continued dedication and vigilance of the armed forces throughout the history of the United States. Whereas the security of the United States depends upon the readiness and retention of the men and women of the armed forces, a force comprised of active National Guard and Reserve personnel. Whereas military families are an eternal source of strength for the soldiers, sailors, and Marines, airmen, and Coast Guardmen of the United States, and have continually proven their dedication, service, and willingness to make great sacrifices in support of the service of members of the United States. Whereas military families often endure unique circumstances that are essential to military life, including long separations from their loved ones, the uncertainty and demands of multiple deployments, school and job transfers, and frequent move from communities where they establish roots and relationships. Where it is important to recognize the sacrifices, support, and dedication of the families of the men and women who serve in the armed forces. Now therefore be resolved that Mchenry Township recognizes the commitment and ever-increasing sacrifices of military families made every day during the current era of protracted conflict. Honors the family of armed forces and thanks the families for their dedication and service to the United States. And then we're going to do a presentation.
Is Mr. Gregory
Sipolkowski, maybe? Is that how we pronounce it?
he here?
No?
Nope.
Gregory T. Sipolkowski? Well, we'll present this in his absence, I guess, okay? We're presenting this to Gregory T. Sipolkowski, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, uncle of Sergeant Jonathan Daly of the United States Army, a banner first used after World War I that symbolizes the dedication and support of families and recognizes their contributions to armed forces during their deployment. So we will get this to Mr. Sipolkowski in honor of Sergeant Daly.
Is Mrs. Sandra Bland here? We have no shows tonight? I'm impressed.
There's people.
Not really.
Let's put the microphone down.
Down? How far down? Okay. Okay, this is, resolution 18-1108-B. It's present Cassandra Bland, parent of 808N, Lindsay Cancel, United States Navy. A banner first used after World War I that symbolizes the dedication and support of military families and recognizes their contribution. Am I going in and out?
Yep. Yeah.
Why is that? My moving just right?
Down just a little bit farther.
Down? That? Okay. Recognize the contribution
Stand back a little bit.
to our American forces?
Better.
There.
Okay. During their deployment. Approved this day, November 8th, 2018. Seal, and I will make sure it's sent to you. I'd like to introduce Cindy Stoffel. She has a couple of presentations.
Hello, everyone. I'm a two-star Blue Star mom, so I'm bringing up the grandparents today. You guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Whereas the freedom and security, sorry, I cannot see this. Whereas the freedom and security the citizens of the United States enjoy today are a result of the continued dedication and vigilance of the armed forces throughout the history of the United States. We present a two-star banner to Donald Kinsella, grandfather of Petty Officer First Class Matthew Snyder, U.S. Navy, and Sergeant Eric Snyder, U.S. Army, a banner first used after World War I that symbolized the dedication and support of military families and recognizes their contribution to our armed forces during their deployment. Come on up, Mr. Don Kinsella. Don Kinsella happens to be my dad.
Face this way. Face this way.
Face that way. Face that way. Show me your name.
I got two women here, I'm not gonna. It's the first time this has happened in a long time.
Long time, probably the last time too.
Sit down,
All right. Well, we'll put the flag on the next one. Resolution 18-1108-D, whereas the freedom and security the citizens of the United States enjoy today are a result of the continued dedication and vigilance of the armed forces throughout the history of the United States. We present a 2-star banner to Jim and Marie Snyder, grandparents of Petty Officer First Class Matthew Snyder, U.S. Navy, and Sergeant Eric Snyder, U.S. Army, a banner first used after World War I that symbolized the dedication and support of military families and recognizes their contribution to our armed forces during their deployment. Come on up, Jim and Marie Snyder. They're going to grab the flag. Okay.
It's not funny.
No. That's everything. What happens ours to give when we give our present?
Okay, okay.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay, we weren't sure.
Okay.
Did you get them? Thanks, Annie.
Got it.
Thank you all. And now we have a brief presentation we would like you to see.
We'll,
We have a reading before they show this.
Okay, are you ready, Dee?
Yes.
Dee, you have it, great.
okay, hold on, hit pause.
Thank you.
Pause.
The Blue Star Service banner was designed in 1917 by a World War Army captain whose 2 sons served on the front line. His banner quickly became a symbol for parents with a child in active military service. It is an American tradition to display a Blue Star Service banner in the window of a home when a loved one is proudly serving in the U.S. Armed Forces. As we support troops deployed overseas, the Blue Star Service banner is a reminder that war touches every neighborhood. If an individual is killed or dies, a smaller gold star is placed over the blue star. The color of the stars are symbolic in that the blue star represents hope and pride, and the gold star represents sacrifice to the cause of liberty and freedom.
Right.
On September 24th, 1917, an Ohio congressman read the following into the congressional record. The world should know of those who gave so much for liberty. The dearest thing in all the world to a father and mother, their children. Today, Blue Star service banners are displayed by families who have a loved one serving in the armed forces, including activated members of the National Guard and Reserves. The banner displayed in the front window of a home shows a family's pride in their loved ones serving in the military and reminds all of us that preserving America's freedom demands much. We, the Sisters of Beta Omicron Master Chapter of Beta Sigma Phi, proudly present you with this banner and thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your family's commitment to our freedom.
Between the women.
That's right. It's where it belongs.
Oh, thank you all so much.
Tonight, this concludes our presentation. I didn't feel like coffee tonight, sorry guys, but there's tea out there. And there's cookies, help yourself, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. Thank you. Sandy, our township photographer, is gonna come around and put the camera in your face, so smile pretty, okay? Thank you.
Yes, and you guys take this one. And then when the other one comes in, I'll come up and get it. It's easier that way.
Just push it out of the way.
I was called,
Okay, we're gonna move on to our agenda now. Our first order of business after this presentation is our public comment. I have one person signed up at this time, Mike Taylor? Taller, I'll get it one of these days. Mike, if you could give your name again and your address, please.
Certainly. Name is Mike Caller, address is 7511 Hickory Trail, Wonder Lake. Louder? It's not often that somebody says that. So, my public comment today is, my public comment today is directed at one member particularly, that would be Mr. Anderson there. He had said multiple times during the course of this whole process about the consolidation, elimination of the road district, that he wanted the people to speak. Well, the people spoke. 11,499 people said no. Only 5,253 people said yes. They have spoken. Will you be a man of honor and let it go now? Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else that wants to give public comment at this time that hasn't signed up that would like to do so? Okay, none being heard, we're gonna move on, okay. Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. First, we have the approval of the October 11th, 2018 regular board minutes. So if we could look those over, and if anybody has any corrections or comments, or if we would like to accept them as they are.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as they are.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Wojcicki to accept the minutes as presented. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Anderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any nays? None being heard, all ayes, motion carries. In your packet, you have the executive session minutes from our last executive session on October 11th. If you could just look those over quickly, please. Hand them back to the clerk when we are finished. And if we want any corrections or additions to those minutes before approving them.
I'll make a motion to accept them as presented.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Anderson to accept the executive session minutes of October 11th, 2018 as presented. Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Wojcicki. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? None being heard. Minutes are accepted. Okay, moving on our agenda, we need a motion for the approval of receipts of the bills for the town fund.
I'll make that. We, the undersigned members of the Mchenry Township Board of Trustees, certify that we have this 8th day of November 2018 examined and audited the amounts due for the items specified in the claims attached and hereby authorize payment of the same. Total reimbursements to be approved, nothing. Total bills to be approved, $42,986.58. Total bills paid prior to audit, $40,846.09. Total be approved, $83,832.67. Total receipts, $1,011.86. I'll make a motion to approve the receipts and pay the bills for the town fund.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the receipts and pay the bills of the town fund. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a first and second to that motion. We'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Adams, yes. Mr. Wojcicki?
Yes.
And Mr. Beer?
Yep.
Okay.
Craig, for the clerk, you didn't, who seconded it?
Second was by Mr. Wojcicki.
Thank you. Oh, it's by Mr. Veer. What, Veer?
Was it Mr. Veer? I'm sorry. I guess I can't hear down there. I apologize. It was Mr. Veer. Okay, turn that on.
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
All right. Motion carries all unanimous, so we've approved the receipts and bills for the town fund. Next, we're moving on to the receipts and bills for the general road and bridge fund.
A comment on that.
Yes.
I would like to commend Debbie McCredo for taking me through all these bills, receipts.
Can't hear you.
She answered all my questions very confidently.
We didn't hear you were commending.
Yeah. Debbie McCredo, okay. She explained the receipts and bills to my satisfaction and answered numerous questions, but very competently.
Okay, thank you.
We, the undersigned members of the Mchenry Township Board of Trustees, certify that we have this 8th day of November 2018 examined and audited amounts due for the items specified in the claims attached and hereby authorized payments of same. Total reimbursement, 0. Total bills to be approved, $161,467.38. Total bills paid prior to audit,
$14,560.89. Total to be approved, $176,028.27. Total receipts, $1,566.56. I make a motion to approve and approve the bills, pay the receipts. Approve the receipts, pay the bills. Correct. Whatever. You got it right. Okay. Mr. Wojciechowski this time has made a motion for the approval of the receipts and the payment of the bills for the General Road and Bridge Fund. I'll second. Mr. Anderson will second it. We'll have the roll call vote. Mr. Beer?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Adams, yes. Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Okay, we have all yeses. That passes. Lastly, we have the motion for the approval and receipt of bills for the Permanent Hard Road Fund. Does someone have it? Steve, I think it's in front of you. In that folder to your right.
Motion to approve the Mchenry Township Board by the Mchenry Township Board.
They apparently don't like to use the mics. You gotta move the mic up.
A motion to approve the Mchenry Township, by the Mchenry Township Board of Trustees, the Mchenry Township Permanent Hard Road bills for the month, some of which have been paid, some yet to be paid. Total reimbursements to be approved, none. Total bills to be approved, $450,918.72. Total bills paid prior to the audit, $19,916.63. The total to be approved, $470,835.35, with the notation for total receipts totaling $941.34. Motion to approve these bills.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Beer to accept the receipts and approve the bills of the Permanent Hard Road Fund. May we have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Wojciechowski. Roll call vote. Adams, yes. Anderson?
Yes.
Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Beer?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries, all unanimous. Okay, moving down the agenda. Fund transfers, we have none at this time. Next item on the agenda is new business. And we're going to discuss all these at one time here. We have 4 cases that we have discussed before. I will read them. Discussion of possible action on case 15TX5, Wolf Realty Inc. et al. Versus Glenda Miller et al. B, discussion of possible action on case 16TX30, Clifford Leaguard Trust et al. Versus Glenda Miller et al. Third one, C, discussion of possible action on case 17TX10-00, I don't know if that's correct. South Main, yes it is, South Main Street LLC et al. Versus Glenda Miller et al. And lastly, discussion and possible action on case 17TX11, Inland Crystal Point LLC et al. Versus Glenda Miller et al. I will turn the discussion over to the attorney at this point.
Thank you. These all 4 cases resonate from a tax rate objection filed by various plaintiffs against various units of local government. As you can see, there's 4 different cases. We're able to develop and come to a compromise agreement without any admission of liability. We're looking to settle these 4 matters, and I would need a motion basically from this board, a motion to approve a compromise settlement agreement to cases 15TX5, 16TX30, 17TX11, and 17TX10 on behalf of the township and the road district. They're 2 different units of government under the terms of the compromise agreement. Again, there's no admission of liability. It's in order to dispose of all 4 cases resulting in the tax rate objections.
Can we release for the public what the numbers are?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Relative to 15 TX5, Wolf Realty, which is A, it's $10,875.26. 16 TX30, Clifford Leagard was $20,358.48. 17 TX11 was $18,141.26. And 17 TX10, 100 South Main Street, 9,000 even on that. So that would resolve all 4 cases, just for general discussion purposes. If there's any questions as relative to those numbers, each case was requesting over $90,000 on each case as well.
Just so everybody understands that originally they wanted over $90,000
On each case.
on each case. We've come to a settlement agreement, because this has been in court, since 15 for the first case.
They're really loud out there.
Oh, I'm sorry, they've been in court since 2015 for the first case. And,
it's been recommended that we settle these without any admission of guilt.
Just a point of discussion, Mr.
Yes.
Adams. Just so the public understands what was at stake here, could the township attorney explain that these are taxes for overaccumulation?
These are basically tax rate objections regarding accumulation of dollars. So what, basically it's a complaint saying, hey, look, when you levied and passed your levy, it was a levy that you should not have done because as a result, we believe you have too much funds in the township. As a result of that, they filed a complaint and then they filed a complaint again. So looking at that rate, there's been new changes in the law regarding how much a township can accumulate regarding new legislation. But there's also some issues regarding what can be maintained for purposes of capital accumulation as well. So there's argument on various positions. Not getting into the detail as to the wheres and the whys and whatnots. This settlement agreement allows the township and the road district, for that matter, to be out on all 4 cases and be done with these matters for this amount. For purposes, again, this amount, as relative to all 4 cases, is still about half of what the whole amount would have been on just one case alone relative to all 4 cases. So from a legal standpoint, it would be my recommendation to this board to approve that motion dispositing of all 4 cases at those amounts.
I would just like to add one thing to that. Mchenry Township is not the only one involved in these suits.
Yeah,
could you elaborate on that?
There was multiple, it was other townships, other school districts, the county of Mchenry. There was a whole host of them, and all of them have been filing and litigating this, and they're still going. There's been some decisions that have been made against other townships, which are significantly greater, just on 1 year, significantly greater than this total amount altogether. But in looking at the matter, you have to look at what's the recommendation for the township and making sure that you're not spending good money after bad money and trying to make a good decision. Again, it's our opinion that this recommendation to accept this compromise and settlement, again, without admitting any fault, would be our recommendation on this. And again, there's multiple, when I say that, multiple defendants, because what happens is it's when you look at your tax bill and you see all the different units of government that are on there, those are all potential defendants relative to their levies and making sure that whether or not they've accumulated or not accumulated, and if they have accumulated, whether or not any of that accumulation was for capital or not, and if it was for capital, then they have to make sure that that's noted. So noted.
These date back to 2015?
2015 on the 2014 rate. 2000, as far as the case, it'd be the 2014 tax levy, 2015 and 2016. So that, as you can see, each case is 1 year after that tax rate.
But isn't it true that after these lawsuits were filed, that there was the state of Illinois had,
in fact, absolutely. So
talked about protecting us against these kind of lawsuits again about overaccumulation.
Correct.
So what I'm saying is, if we settle these, is it just going to keep coming back, or is this going to go away forever?
This compromise and settlement resolves these 4 cases. What I can tell you is this, anybody can sue anybody for anything. So if there's other taxpayers that are out there that think something's happened or they feel unjust about something, they certainly can do that. Now, I can tell you this as well, there is recent legislation that took effect. It was back last year, and what it did was it codified it, and it became a statute that said what is the specific ratio by which you can have accumulation and what that actually means. Now, prior to that, it was been and has been case law and argument on both sides as far as what that range is, so to speak. Now there's a definitive number that the statute is now prescribed.
So it's going to make it more difficult for us to have those kind of lawsuits.
That's correct, because now it's raised the bar not only for getting that lawsuit, but it also has defined what capital surplus is and how to take that into the formula. So it's defined that and made it more difficult for tax objectors to raise that claim. Doesn't mean they can't do that.
Anybody, like you said, anybody can sue anybody for anything.
Absolutely.
But it's going to make it harder for them to do that.
That is correct. That is correct.
Well, also, Stan, we're gonna have to do a better job during the budget process too, to make sure that we watch all those numbers come in too.
Okay.
And those, excellent point actually, because it's not just the numbers for the budgeting, but then it's looking at the last 3 years of your expenses. So if, as a township, you've done a great job at reducing your expenses, that's also, on the other side of the coin, increased your ratio because of that reduction. So that, absolutely, that's something to look at that point in time. Good point.
Mr. Adams, can I be recognized, please?
Yes, Mr. Connor.
I think it's important to point out that the previous trustees and supervisor had professional expertise that said that there wasn't a problem with that they were advised that it wasn't an issue at the time. And so, just because we settled this doesn't mean that we did anything wrong. There's no truth to that. We were advised at that time that the funds that we had were perfectly fine. And I think Donna Schaefer at the time would confirm that. And because we settled this case, it seems to be more of a settlement to end the legal fees than anything else. So don't think that we did anything wrong. There's been nothing proven that we did anything wrong. The township isn't guilty of anything.
The problem is in our litigious society, the reality is that it's sometimes cheaper to settle than to continue. Unfortunately, that is the realities.
We didn't do anything wrong, but it's still costing us money.
Correct.
And just for a point of order on that, that's exactly what the compromise agreement says, that there's no admission of liability. You're absolutely right, Mr.
Yeah, questions?
I ask a question? You really cannot at this point in time. You can ask one later.
Public comment.
In public comment.
I have a comment to make to the attorney. I think you did a wonderful job, Jim, for making that settlement. That could not have been very easy to handle it, but thank you for the good job you did on that.
Okay, so we need a motion to.
Craig, I have a question for you.
Sure.
As a supervisor, do you share the recommendation from the attorney that we sell this?
I do share that recommendation. I also want you, which wasn't mentioned, our insurance company, which has paid a lot of our legal fees, is also recommending that we settle.
Do we have to have separate motions for these?
No, I would. You can do them all four in one motion. I have a sheet here that you can use to make that motion for this. All right, I'll make the motion here. The motion is to make a compromise agreement for the following cases. Motion to approve a compromise agreement to settle cases 15 TX5, 16 TX30, 17 TX11, and 17 TX10 on behalf of the Township of the Road District under the terms of such compromise agreement. I will read each number again for you. Case number 1, 1510-5, Wolf Realty et al. The settlement agreement is $10,875.26. Case number 2, 16 TX30, Clifford Leaguard Trust et al. The settlement agreement is $20,358.48. Case number 3, 17TX11, Inland Crystal Point et al., $18,141.26. And the last case is 17TX10, 100 South Main Street et al., $9,000. So I make that motion.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Anderson.
One question.
Yes.
Who's getting this money?
It's lawyers. Thank you. It was going to each of there's various attorneys on these cases. It would go to each of the attorneys into their trust funds, and then how they disperse it between their clients is how they disperse it, but the order would provide for the attorneys for those individual clients and cases.
Did I answer your question? Okay. Thank you.
Just one more comment, if I may, Mr. Adams.
I'm sorry?
One more comment.
Sure. Go ahead, Mr. Anderson. Or Mr. Anderson. Mr. Veer.
I think every government entity, every taxing body in this state has a duty not to overtax, not to accumulate millions and millions of dollars. Everything should be run on a as-needed basis. These tax bills are way too high, and no governmental entity, not just the township, but the road district, none of them should be having these accumulated amounts that are way above and beyond what's necessary for the entity to function. We owe that to the taxpayers, who in this county, the 17th highest tax county in the entire United States in terms of property taxes. We owe them a duty for this. So these suits are not frivolous in terms of being something completely out of the ordinary or no basis whatsoever. That's why we're settling for these amounts. That's my comments.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Are there any last comments from the board before we vote on this? We have a first and a second. Okay, Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Adams, yes. Mr. Wojcicki?
Yes.
Mr. Veer?
Yes.
Okay, all yeses to this settlement agreement. Motion passed.
Who's second on the motion?
Mr. Anderson seconded it. I made the motion. Okay. We're done with new business. Moving on to old business, I have none at this time unless someone else has something. Okay, none being heard. I'm going to move on to, do we have any proposed agenda items for the next meeting? Okay, none being heard. I'm going to move on. Supervisor's report. You have my park report, my general assistance report, and my senior center report. Mr. Veer, you asked me last month to accumulate a record for you of general assistance report. I was not thinking. It is in your packet every month, by the month, the numbers that you asked for. And if you don't have them, I'll be happy to give them to you. Any questions on my reports? Okay, none being heard. We're going to move on to the assessor's report.
I don't really have much of a report. Our appeal period ended October 29th, and so we're just working at responding to the appeals for 2018. That's pretty much what we have going on full-time in the office right now. So unless you have any questions for me, that is my report.
Any questions for the assessor from this board? Okay, none being heard. We're going to move on to the highway commissioner's report.
I'll just summarize my written report that was submitted to you. No change on dedicated roads, non-dedicated roads, I should say. Our 2018 program, we have one last thing to do, and it's Lincoln Road. It's in the process of being paved, and then there'll be the final landscaping. It should be stabilized before the snow. Well, not before the snow falls, it's supposed to be tomorrow morning. I'll take that part back. But that should be finished up. That finishes our road program. Indian Ridge, they are finalizing their last section up there. They've paved, they put down the shoulders. They are doing the final landscaping and stabilizing that for winter, so that will be another project done. We have one more monthly brush pickup, our brush recycling day. That's November 17th. That's our last one of the year, and again, it's been another successful year. I do want to thank the trustees for approving the salt dome conveyor system. We actually got it installed, it's up and running, and I have to tell you, it worked fabulously once we got some dry salt. There was a period where we had wet salt and we had a problem, but with the dry salt, the dome filled up perfect. We didn't have anybody in there, nobody was endangered. It worked out beautifully, so we greatly appreciate your approval of that on our budget this year. Non-dedicated roads, not too much new. We're continuing to work on a program to allow some options to non-dedicated roads to upgrade their roads, 3 different options, and we'll be sending a letter out to that. I want to point out we have applied for a grant for reseeding some of our right-of-way with natural prairie grasses or prairie plants, the backside of our ditch slopes. And we did that in collaboration with the environmental defenders in Mchenry County, and if we obtain the grant, we should be able to do that to about 6 miles of roadway. The grant is a split cost between us, and if we receive the grant, we would supply the labor and equipment to do the work, and they would supply the funds for the roundup to kill off the existing vegetation and the new seeding. So we hope to find that out before the end of the year here. One other grant that we applied for, and I hope that indications are that we'll receive it, is a CDBG grant for $75,000. We are planning on reconstructing North Boulevard and taking care of the drainage issues in that section of roadway, so that then it can become a full township road as opposed to a non-dedicated road. And that is supposed to go in front of the county board on November 13th, so hopefully on the 14th we'll have some good news. Plows are ready to go. As a matter of fact, we've got the equipment all set, and we have 5 trucks ready to go out and hit the main lines if it snows tonight. And so tomorrow morning, I'll be out there checking the roads about 3 o'clock to see if we need to have the guys come in. And so it begins. That's it. Thanks. Glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for the road commissioner at this time? Okay, none being heard, I'm going to move on to next item on our agenda is executive session. At this time, I have no reason to go to executive session. Just so the board knows, we have no cases pending at this time that I'm aware of. Is that correct, Mr. Roswell?
They're pending. I have to get these orders and final entry, but yes.
Yeah, other than these, I'm sorry. The larity is, these cases are still pending until he gets the orders in, but there's nothing to discuss otherwise. So if I hear no objections, I'll move on to board member comments. Are there any? Okay, hearing none, I'll move on to, is there any public comment that wants to be made yet? Sir, did you want to make a comment? You had.
I just had a question on the budgeting as far as the roads were concerned. If there's X amount of money.
Please speak your name and address.
Yeah, you need to touch.
I'm so sorry.
Could you go up to the podium? I'm sorry.
Sure.
I need your name and address for the record.
Scott White, 2717 North Orchard Drive in Macomb Lake. I had a question on the budget. If there's so much of a surplus, money could be put back into the township as far as equipment, buildings. Can it be done for other tax reasons for the public? More facilities here, anything to use some of that budget to improve the township? Is that a possibility? Is it like personal tax? Just question.
I'm going to answer that. Yes, there's a possibility for that, but those funds at this point in time, and this board did do this in our last budget, are all allocated for certain maintenance items, facility improvements, etc.
So there is no overage?
That's a legal interpretation, I guess.
Yeah, as far as overage, the township comes out with an audit each year. The audit, I believe, comes out March 31st of whatever the year it has. The accountant, and they put all the numbers, and you see the overs and unders as any monies that may be for the township that's left over. But there's a process in which the township goes through, and they take time and they actually go into a workshop and look at and budget there's this budget and appropriation piece to the township as far as allocating those funds within various line items in order to spend it. You can't spend it unless it's specifically budgeted for. So just because somebody wants to do something, if it's not planned for and not budgeted for, that money can't be spent for it. That's one segment of it, that's the budget and appropriation piece. Then there's the levying piece, which allows for the accumulation of the money, and that's where, unfortunately, the taxpayers see it on their tax bill, and those are the funds that are raised in order to fund those budget pieces. So, in answer to your question, the long answer to the question, is that the township board would then, if there's issues and things that are needed for the township, they would budget for that, and then at whatever meeting they could then purchase if they so choose.
And I will add one thing to your question. Our budget cycle will probably be starting up here in January. Those are all public meetings. If you as the public has something that you want the township to do, you need to come to those and advise us of that.
No, this is more in response to Mr. Burr's comment that there was an overage and we're overtaxed, and I think our money's pretty well spent.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comments? Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Thank you. My name is Bill King. I live in Clisson Court here in Mchenry. I'd just like to say to Mr. Condon, thank you so much for Lincoln Avenue, Lincoln Street. We're here two years now, and that road was really bad. Now it's looking good. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any more public comments? Last call. Any more public comments, or as they say, hold your peace till the next meeting? Okay. All right. I'm going to call for an adjournment. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Okay, motion by Mr. Anderson. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Root. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any nays? None be heard. Adjourn.
Yeah, you're all driving the filaments. Here's the numbers. You'll speak.
Oh, Jim, for the one. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, you too. Have a good day. So then tell thank you.
Right? I'm sorry. Right? This is no record reading. Yes, it is. Since I've been here anyway.
Mr. Bear, happy Thanksgiving.
You want me to pass this down, Dan, or are you going to pass it down? What side do you want? Did you see that check out?
Yes.
Good?
This one's good, wait.
And that was for. I can't remember.
The amount, I got the email, whatever the email is, I
Is
just.
that information, the next tax?
Oh, let me go.
It's a general rule. Road and bridge, you got the same one, right?
There was a minimal opportunity. Difference. Nothing else. And thank you for that. That was the best. Thank you.
If it's this, it's true. If you had a complaint, you should say something too.
That is true.
That's only like once every 3 weeks, and it's only like an hour. Whereas the chemo was like.
Oh, I'm really thinking. Oh, isn't it?
I haven't yet, yeah.
You're driving my car. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, you're not. I've been driving.
You put L on summer.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right, so I find it easier on the desktop.
okay. And then, and if you
You driving your
and I can actually run the if need be.
I don't think that was.
My car's being.
I don't see where that would hurt a thing at all.
Just for you.
Good night.
No. No.
No. Where's John? John? Come on, John. She's giving me a hard time. I don't remember doing it, so I have to go once. I'm the treasurer of the Lions Club too, and today I had to do that report, so I wouldn't recognize the numbers you told me. If I remember seeing email come in, and I remember seeing the check deposit. There was a teeny tiny minimal difference, and I said that. Yeah, that's what I mean, it was minimal, so don't worry about it. Don't worry about that at all.
Yeah, I just.
Or what you've done for God's sake.
Well, no, I just want to write check for the lawyers and the rest of it. I don't want hope centers to end up with an overpaid.
Correct, right. I'll send you an email with the details that I have. All right. I was gonna ask her how many appeals she had. And that's not.
December 1st. And he knows nothing, so you're
so they're